Hello world, this is H.L. Quist. As you recall, I am the Mythbuster. I've got a hot topic for you today. Haven't spoken to you for a while, but this is big news. Very big news. This is a major cyclical and a trend change. And the title of my program today is How the Inflation Genie is Out of the Bottle. It's time for a love affair with the inflation genie. I like to think of the inflation genie as Barbara Eden, and I Dream of Jeannie and coming up out of the bottle and so forth. Anyway, that's my visual recollection of Jeannie, so let's paint a very positive picture of it. And in this particular case, the inflation genie is a good genie. Now, I haven't, historically, I've gone back, in fact, you can look at the YouTubes, back as far as November of '09, I talked about the coming inflationary boom. The inflation was here, and it was embedded in the system, but it didn't show up yet in retail prices and so forth. In fact, I went even back to August 25th, where I did a piece on the inflation and talking about the coming inflationary boom in my book and so forth. But here we are today, and inflation has reared its head, its ugly head, because ultimately inflation is a tax, and I understand that. But in the early stages of an inflationary cycle, companies make profits, stocks go up. You just go back to 1976, 1977, before inflation took off, and everything was going gangbusters. Commodities and stocks and all assets and real estate were going up tremendously, and that's where we are. I knew back in 2008 and '09, with the stimulus programs that were being enacted by government, the liquidity infused in the system, the printing of all this fiat money, would ultimately create the situation today. Because first and foremost, inflation is a monetary phenomenon, and that's what we have today. Because, bankers and Wall Street and the government officials and so forth and people and the bureaucrats, given the choice between inflation and deflation, well, they're going to take inflation every time. We were on the cusp of massive deflation, recession, and even a depression. Well, of course, the bankers don't love that, and nobody pays their debts and so forth. We had enough of that, so they have done everything to create inflation. Now, they'll tell you that they don't want it, but yes, they do. And with that comes asset inflation, wage and price inflation, but most importantly for us, asset inflation, real estate, stocks, commodities, gold, silver, precious metals, and so forth. In my newsletter, I write a monthly newsletter called The Contrarian Market View, which I publish monthly, and that has all kinds of commentary like I'm doing today, but it also lists about 40 different names of stocks that you can buy and assets that you can purchase that are promoting, really it's an inflation portfolio, because I think that for the next year or two we have an opportunity to add significantly to our asset base, make up some of the money that we've lost over the last 2.5 years. In my March letter, I talked about PPI being that's the producer price index, that's wholesale prices, were up 1.4%. That's almost 18% on an annualized basis, okay? And that told me that indeed inflation was embedded in the system, as I reported to you. In my February newsletter, I talked about the coming food and water shortage. I talked about the governor in California who cut off water to the San Joaquin Valley, and sure enough, California is going to have the worst crop year that it's had since they kept recording these statistical numbers. And of course now we're going to see it, as I'm going to talk to you about here just now. Year to year, year over year, here are the change in some of the food prices that we purchase every day. Fresh veggies, 56% increase. Fresh fruits and vegetables and melons, 29%. Eggs, 34%. Pork, 19%. Beef, 11%. Dairy products, 10%. All these are basic food products. Now, your senior ladies out there, you know these prices have gone up dramatically, but the public hasn't really tuned into this yet. but they will. In a couple months, everybody's going to be talking about how the prices of everything have gone up. Now, let's talk about some harder assets, materials, okay? Rubber, basic thing for automobiles and tires, 74% increase since January. Now, I understand that there's problems in Asia where they grow the rubber trees and so forth, but Goodyear has increased the price of their tires 8%. Lumber, 59% increase. Just as the housing market is recovering and builders are getting back and building new homes, they're going to add $2,400 to the average medium price home, up over 1% to the price. Palladium. You know what palladium is? Well, of course, it's a precious metal, so is platinum. But they're critical metals used in catalytic converters, automobiles, to cut down exhaust emissions and emissions in automobiles. China, sales increased 50% in automobiles. They're buying palladium. It's very scarce. The price has just escalated. It's up 39%, but actually it's more than that. In fact, I recommended this in my newsletter when the ETF first came out for palladium, and it's up 35% since it was recommended. Oil. Remember a year ago it was $34 a barrel? It's now 84, 120% increase. And here we're getting into the driving season. Gasoline is going to be over $3 a barrel. And then people will start to take notice, hey, there's inflation out there. Well, I hope that you can subscribe to my Contrarian Market View. You can go to my blog and show you how to do that. It's $99 a year, and I've got a special going. You get my 2 free books about inflation, free 2 books if you purchase the newsletter for $99 a year. And I think this is the opportunity of a lifetime, and certainly to restore our assets that we've lost. Now, it's time to romance the inflation genie. But the inflation genie will ultimately become a bad genie. Well, then we'll discard. We will have a divorce from that genie, the bad genie. But I want to keep you up to date on what's going on, because this is so critical to our businesses, to our financial planning, our retirement planning, and there are opportunities here, and I want you to check them out. This is H.L. Quist, the Mythbuster, and until I talk to you again, goodbye.